Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we're going to unbox a WC68 wood chipper made by Woodland Mills, and I'll be installing it on a B2601 Kubota tractor. I appreciate everybody's comments on the last video about my front end loader. I recently just dropped it off at the dealer, so we're going to wait on them and see how it turns out. I do kind of feel funny that I don't have a tractor now. I have to wait for it to come back. Hopefully it doesn't snow, or I don't have to dig a big hole or anything, or pick up anything. I don't need a tractor, because I ain't got one now. He said about a week, so can't wait. I feel like I did a pretty good step-by-step. Their manual is very detailed. But there's a couple of little things that I ran into when I was putting it together myself, and I did it by myself. So there's some tips along the way that'll help you put it together yourself. I would advise, if you could, have somebody help you, because some of the pieces are kind of heavy, because it's a heavy-duty machine. I'm really impressed with the packaging and all the parts and how strong all the bolts and stuff were, because I mean, I put an impact to them and none of them snapped. At the end, me and my wife try it out. It's only a couple little branches, but it at least shows that I know how to put something together. The metal crate is held together in all four corners. It takes a 1/2-inch wrench and 1/2-inch socket to remove them. Looks like everything's wrapped up really nicely. I'm gonna have to cut these zip ties so I can get to that manual. Alright, I got everything off this thing. Now it's just the main unit right before assembly. And I'm going to read the manual first. All the hardware is in your tube. Then get all that. First set of hardware has the nylon washers in there. Make sure the nylon washers on this side, in between these two pieces of metal, and then right before the nut. Following the same idea on that top panel, you should have nylon washers in between these two brackets for the lid. Looks like the big bag of bolts and wash fender washers, that's next. This bag of fasteners are all going to go on loose, just hand tight or finger tight. I'm using the tape to hold the bolts in the holes while I hold the panel, because I only have 2 hands, not 3. This will make it a lot easier. On the bottom panel, those 2 bolts are kind of short, so you need to prop that bottom plate up on a 5-gallon bucket or something to change the angle so those bolts go right in. Now that the 2 bottom fasteners are in there, you can swing this bottom panel up. Okay, we're putting on the edge bar. Go up, put the top end first, and these side tabs go past the chute or the hopper, then come down. And then fold the bottom panel up past the tabs on the bottom, so they'll kind of hook onto the bottom. At this point, we can put all the fasteners for the hopper in all the holes. Oh, don't put that cup in that hopper. I remember somebody saying that's a bad idea. You'll have enough fasteners for the hopper, minus these 2 bolts for here and here. Don't tighten all these fasteners all the way yet. This is the package we're going to use for the control arm, red handle. So the bolt goes through, and between the gray and the red, there's a washer. Now that the in-feed control arm is on and all the bolts are on for the hopper, it's time to tighten everything. Because right now it should be loosely, everything should be loosely bolted together by hand. So now it's time to wrench on it. Using a 5mm Allen wrench and a 6mm Allen wrench or socket and a 13mm wrench. These jam nuts were 10mm and they seem to be already adjusted, so you just have to or tighten up these nuts. Next, connect the in-feed control rod to the red control arm. This is the hardware package for the discharge chute. What I've been doing is just getting a container and dumping all the bolts out of the bag into the container, because it's easy to reach in the container. Because most of the time you have one hand full trying to hold a piece while you're trying to put a bolt in, so this makes it easier to grab. On the discharge chute, the shorter bolts go on this side, and the side with the lock uses the longer bolts. You get a couple extra shear bolts, throw that in the manual tube with your manual. And last but not least, put in your discharge chute adjustment. Now hook it up to your 3-point and remove it from the crate. Now that it's mounted to the tractor with the 3-point, lift the chipper all the way up and measure from this groove to the groove on the tractor output shaft, write down that measurement, and then put the chipper all the way down. And then remeasure from those points, same points, and the smaller dimension of the two is the number you need. Now it's time to measure up the drive shaft that came with it from this point, the locking pin, to the other locking pin. These are the dimensions that I've measured on my shaft, and 23.5 was the shortest of the two measurements. So that's the number I'm going to need as dimension A. And then on this page, I measured the shaft from locking pin to locking pin and came up with 29 3/4. I know it says it's supposed to be this, but that's what I got. So should be pretty accurate. So you take that number, and that'll be dimension B. So B minus A plus 1 inch. Okay, dimension B is 29 inches 3/4 minus dimension A, which was 23 inches 1/2. And it shows 6 1/4, and then you just add an inch to that dimension, and that's 7 1/4. So let's just see, plus 1 inch. 7 1/4 is what we got to trim the shaft. To get the cover off, or the safety cover off the shaft, there's these holes. See how this one has the white in there? And there's a white piece of plastic. And there's 3 holes. And then there's what's underneath. So I just took 3 different screwdrivers and shoved it in those holes to push these tabs in. And then the shaft slid off. So I just kind of poked it in like that to pop that tab, and the cover slides right off. Okay, now that the safety cover is off, this is the drive shaft, the metal part, and this is the plastic safety cover. That dimension, the 7 1/4, needs to be cut off this one and this one. But don't try to cut it all in one piece. You have to cut the cover separate. That's why you have to separate this. So cut the same dimension off the plastic piece and then the same off the shaft, and then you see how the shaft sticks out. I don't know, it looks like about an inch, 1.5 inches. That's an overlap. That'll make it easy to put it together. So I'm going to cut 7 1/4 off this shaft, this cover, and the same on the other one. And that'll get my dimension, or my length. You have to cut them on both sides, or both pieces. With it still in the vise, take your file and clean up any burrs in the shaft. That way it'll slide freely when you shove it in the other shaft. On the plastic, I'm just going to use the deburring tool for the inside. Now we're going to put the cover back on. Line up them holes with the tabs. That's it. Snaps right in. One down. Again, line up the tabs. There's a tab here. Just show it on. That's it. The other shaft's gonna slide on the inside of this one. So I'm gonna put grease in here and grease the outside of the other shaft, and then make sure it slides in and out smoothly. There's excess grease on the front of this U-joint. It's all over the place, so I might as well use that. Grease over here too. Just grease the outside of this shaft. Now that they're greased up, just kind of shove it all back together. Like that. I'm going to use the cutoff pieces to show you how the drive shaft slides back together. There's actually a flat part on this one corner, and then the other two are rounded. You can see how it's rounded. So as you're looking at it this way, there's the flat corner, and then it only goes on that way. Kind of like two ears and a chin, a flat chin. Let's see how it turned out. After I did this, I realized you should put the other end on the chipper first, where the shear pin is, then the shaft on the tractor. Boy, that's always be a son of a biscuit. Baby. Oh boy, this is gonna suck. There we go. Break time. And the shear bolt side goes onto the shaft on the wood chipper. Maybe I should have put this one on first. Come on. Where's the damn groove? Push the pin. Okay. That part's on. And there's a shear bolt. Hook up our safety chains. Next, you hook up your safety cover chains. These are nice ones. You can go through there. They're really nice. Get this other one. This thing just can go across the 3-point. I'll hook that up off camera. This tag was right next to the hydraulic tank. It specifies how many gallons and the type of oil. So just in case you want to get your oil before your chipper shows up. Alright, I think we're set to fill her up. Like a giant box of wine. See if I can get you closer. This is on. It's the first time I ever messed with a box of oil. Come on, buddy. Oh, there it goes. Woo! That's kind of cool. I don't have to juggle a 5-gallon bucket or anything. So I guess we'll just fill it up. It says it takes 5 gallons of hydraulic fluid. This is a 6-gallon box, so when it gets close to the bottom, I'll stop and check. The good thing is I can see down in the funnel, and they have a screen to catch any debris. It's like a real fine screen, and I can see the bottom of that cup type screen, so I'm guessing I'll be able to shut this off before it overfills. Keep your fingers crossed. All right, looks full to me. With the hopper folded up, I found a good position for my discharge chute. So now that I know the spot where it doesn't interfere when you fold this hopper up, I just marked it with a little white paint marker, you know, and it's all compact, so this is a good way to get through the woods. And this handle on the other side here doesn't hit when you fold it, so now I know that this is the spot. Okay, if you look down here, you can see the anvil blade there. You just got to check and make sure that's between 1/16 of an inch and 1/8. And I checked all 4, and things seems to be right on. Now I just got to grease the bearings. And I made a mark on the thread where the bolt was from the factory, and I backed her off some and just left about a fingertips worth of thread on the bottom. It still seems really tight, so I heard that if you put bigger pieces in there, that roller has a little trouble climbing up the piece of wood, so I'm gonna try that and see if that helps on that. Here you can see the red control handle had a tendency of popping back into neutral. I had to readjust that. What I did is I took that control connecting rod, disconnected it, and then pulled the handle towards me just like when you stick it in forward, but pull it towards me past the hopper, about 6-7 inches. And that bent the top brackets where the bolts mount. That way there's no back pressure from the handle on the transmission. If sawdust is man glitter, what are wood chips? I want to thank Ed at My Cluttered Garage. He's the one that inspired this video. Up until I watched his video, I didn't know if it even worked on a B2601. So I felt confident after watching his video to make the purchase. I want to say thank you again to all the people that have subscribed. It's been pretty exciting. Every time I wake up in the morning and I see some new subscribers, it kind of makes my day. If you have a chance, leave a comment, hit that like button. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one. Look at all this metal. I can't wait to make something out of that.